Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Welcome to another episode of iTalk Movies. I'm your host, Ben Bateman, talking to the man formerly known as Ricky Hollywood. We have the auteur, the visionary, Richie Gray. Hang with us, guys. We'll see you in 1 second.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's iTalk Movies.
Yes! It's like we're in Magnolia right now. The doors just swung open to the bar. We just walked in. I'm H. Macy. You're Todd the bartender. You got the braces on.
I thought I was going to be. You're definitely the bartender. What a beautiful man.
Yeah.
What a beautiful scene.
He was handsome. Yeah. It's a great. The whole scene's so good.
I got to look up who that actor is. He's
Yeah.
fantastic.
I know. I feel like you, but you're trying to put every PT actor into your movies somewhere. I'm seeing that happen.
Right.
Guys, welcome to the show. Welcome to iTalk Movies. We are talking to the director of the brand new film Sugar Mountain, Mr. Richie Gray. Welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. This is good. We got to do this. I talked to you at the after party a bit from that premiere, and it turned out that we have the same favorite director of all time.
Yes.
And I was like, for nothing else,
we should talk about Boogie Nights for an hour.
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, I've got a kindred spirit here. I was like, there's just,
awesome.
I have to do this interview.
Awesome.
So as well as P.T. Anderson being awesome, Sugar Mountain just released. It's your fifth film.
I don't know. But it was fun, and Alaska was the first time I'd been there. It was amazing.
Yeah, I can imagine. I heard that the production out there was like everybody was kind of helping each other out. You had some younger actors who were kind of working for the first time. Mm-hmm. You guys were like trading booze to get a location or help with something or other.
That's all true. The film was set upstate New York, and then a previous film of ours, The Lookalike, was playing at the Anchorage Film Festival, and they invited us to come up.
Yeah.
And so whenever a film festival wants to fly you to a place you haven't been before, I always say yes. And so we went to Alaska, and then I found this town, Seward. I was introduced to this town, I should say, and we're just like, everything about this story, Sugar Mountain, about two kids and a fishing boat and insurance scam gone wrong and a disappearance gone wrong. Alaska just seems so much bigger and so much more epic.
Yeah.
And with a limited budget, we thought that we could make it look the size it needed to look in Alaska, but also just get so much value out of the locations.
Well, you told me when I was asking you about this, you saw the location. You were like, let's just put the money up on the mountain. Let's just, right?
Exactly.
You have those helicopter shots. So the first thing I'll say about Sugar Mountain is that the movie does not look like it cost less than $1 million to make. Am I right?
To shoot, yeah.
That's unreal. I mean, just those shots alone make you feel like you're watching like Spider-Man 3 or something.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's like the scope is enormous. It's beautiful. Your cinematographer on this was somebody who's worked on a ton of huge stuff, right?
John Garrett, yeah.
Yeah.
So he come from being an operator or second unit in much bigger films, Michael Bay films, or could be Fast and Furious or a Transformers film, or it could be Magnificent Seven or something, but always in the second unit. But he came with a big studio kind of philosophy, but he's kind of real indie, get it done type of guy, so he's kind of perfect for this.
You said the word indie. I was thinking about this as I watched The Lookalike, and I was comparing it, and I was I didn't have time to watch the entire run of movies, but Blinder and Mind Games, I was doing my research, watching trailers, watching scenes where I could find them on everything to catch up. And I started to think, I wouldn't characterize your movies as indie movies because they don't feel like they're that real art house kind of. You know what I'm talking about? Really slow, dark, conversational. They're thrillers. They're like there's a lot of action going on. There's big storylines, but I wouldn't. Obviously, the budget makes them. They're not big tentpole, big budget movies. They're sort of like this new generation of movie where they look like they cost a lot more than they cost. You're casting big actors. Your last two have had some pretty big names in them, so they don't really come off as like the festival tiny.
No.
Jerry O'Connell and Justin Long and Jason Momoa. These are big names.
Yeah. Well, they are true independent films in sense of budget,
right?
But we try to make the type of films that we like at the cinema, and it just happens that we have a lot less money. However, what's great is the actors are drawn to the scripts, and so we probably bite off more than we can chew for the genres that we're trying to do, but we always want to make the scripts and the stories that really appeal to it. So we read this script. It's actually an Australian, a Melbourne screenwriter, A.B. Pogos, and his writing partner Catherine Hill. We read this. It was originally set in Australia, Sugar Mountain. Just like Lookalike was written by my wife and producing partner Michelle, and this film was originally set in Melbourne, Australia. And we look at these films and we go, what could benefit the films to get the maximum amount of people to see them? And when you make an Australian film, as wonderful as the industry is, you become a foreign film, even though it's in English. You basically are a foreign film if you're an Australian film. And if you don't have A-list superstar actors from Australia, it's very hard to get any type of release in the US.
Right.
And so when the film is not a quintessential Australian story, we were of the thought that let's take it to a bigger market and let's try to show it to a bigger audience.
Well, the delineation of your career, it seems the last two have been that way. Not Blinder. Blinder was a rugby film, right? So it's got
Australian rules, but similar. Yeah. Football, but a different type of football.
Yeah, so that still has the foreign film feel to it, whereas Lookalike and Sugar Mountain both feel like American films.
That's right. And we've lived here for over 6 years now, but we'll go and make more films in Australia, and we love Australia. But these films were not Australian stories, so it didn't make sense to make them in Australia. And certainly Sugar Mountain, I can't imagine now not being in Alaska.
Right.
Because of the value that we got. And also, when you don't have a lot of money, the crew and the cast, they all came when you told them, we're going to make a film in the winter in Alaska. If they said yes, then they were the right type of person.
Sure.
Because you knew they were all in, because they were ticking off a bucket list. They were going to Alaska, where there's a bear there and a killer whale there and a bald eagle there, and they're all right there where we were living in Seward. And so the crew had the right attitude.
Did you watch a bunch of like nature survival type of movies getting ready? Did you ever see the movie from 1997, Alec Baldwin, Anthony Hopkins?
The Edge.
One of my favorite movies. One of my favorite movies I've ever seen.
Today, I'm going to kill me a bear.
I'm going to kill the bear.
We were just talking, it's funny you mentioned that. We're actually just talking about that because every Alaskan film that we Googled wasn't shot in Alaska.
Yeah.
So you grow up watching Northern Exposure, the TV show, which is where I first saw John Corbett, which was such a treat working with him. And you go, oh, it's Alaska. But it's not Alaska.
No.
You know, I think that was Washington State. So that was near where
Northern Exposure?
Yeah, Northern Exposure. That was near where they shot Twin Peaks. So, and then I saw, The Edge, that's Alaska. So it's got to, no, that's Calgary.
Yeah.
So Into the Wild was one of the few that we found that were actually shot there. And so it was hard to find, because Alaska's so difficult, it was hard to find films that had actually been shot there.
I think The Edge does a pretty convincing job, though. I was convinced, and it has some of the great, like their whole interaction when he's like, I don't know, Charles, I don't know about killing the bear, and he's like, say it, Bob, say it, I'm gonna kill the bear, I'm gonna kill the bear. Like it's just so good. The interaction's amazing.
I love that you were just talking about, because we were literally just scouting Calgary last week.
Yeah,
and we're talking about The Edge.
That's incredible. My buddy Matt was the second AD on Revenant, and one of the ADs. That movie was a bit of crazy thing. He was there for 6 months. He left the project. They tried to get him back. They switched people around, but he was there for 6 months filming, and he just was like, he's in my fantasy football league, and he would send us messages, and he's like, all I want to do is just sit on the couch and watch football. He's like, this is miserable. This is so cold.
We were just scouting there, and you could see with such a stunning film, but you can see when you're in the water so much and there's snow, that's not going to be a lot of fun. But Jesus, beautiful.
Yeah, I've never been. But The Edge just made me want to go. So even though it's not really there. So you got a pretty sweet cast on this one. You got Aquaman himself, Khal Drogo, Jason Momoa, who is downright terrifying in this movie.
Great.
You got Cary Elwes, Wesley. I mean, unfortunately and fortunately for the guy, he always will be synonymous with this one role.
Sure.
I felt a little guilty even when I was interviewing him at the premiere, because I found myself asking questions, and I watched the interview back, and I was like, this is just kind of awkward. Like, I'm kind of just vomiting my excitement of talking to you from this movie, because I can think of all these other parts that I've seen him in over the years. He has been in a lot of other stuff. But it's just so difficult when you're in one of those type of movies it's even beyond something like Boogie Nights, which is like one of my 5 favorite movies ever made, and people love that movie. But a movie like The Princess Bride it's like being in Star Wars. It's like you just kind of can't.
E.T.
Yeah, you can't buck that one movie. People will forever love and be so excited to talk to you because that's like their movie. But it had to have been a trip for you working with him, with Jason.
Carey was great. He wanted to do something different with the role, and obviously he's kind of an alcoholic chief of police, but he's fantastic. He's dealing with a lot of stuff, but he brought a lot to the role, and he stayed the entire shoot even though he didn't need to. But I think he deals with the same stuff all the time because he's such a well-known person. He was writing that memoirs for Princess Bride when we were up in Alaska.
It just came out of it.
And as much as he's every other film that you remember him from, be it Saw or Liar Liar or his other memorable roles.
I think he's in one of the 2 Morgan Freeman, like Along Came a Spider movies. One of those 2.
Yeah, and so he was great, and he was great being a cop. I don't think he'd done that role or anything similar to that before, so he was fantastic. And Jason was great. The first phone call we had, we started talking about Aussie movies because Jason's actually spent a lot of time in Australia. So we're actually talking about Andrew Dominique and Chopper. We spoke a lot Chopper, which if you haven't seen is Eric Bana's first fantastic movie. And The Proposition, which is a Western.
Guy Pearce, yeah.
And so we were talking about Aussie movies, which you can't speak to many Americans about because they're hard to get, those movies.
Proposition's great.
Proposition and Chopper's a masterpiece. So, and very low budget Australian films that were happening when I was coming through film school. So he knew those films well, and so when you watch those Momoa scenes with the jail scenes, although we had limited scenes with him, we wanted to create a really important antagonist that was real, and I think it comes through. And Jason and Shane in the jail sequence really wanted to do something different and special there, and because of their size difference, like about 2 feet.
Shane's a pretty small guy,
right?
And Jason's huge.
That's right. And so Jason was like, well, it was originally scripted that he would hit him or something. He's like, if I hit him, that's going to be the end of the scene.
Yeah.
So he said, what about if I just slap him?
Yeah.
Instead, and do more of a wrestling, do more of a humiliation type sequence because he's trying to get information out of him. Do more of an interrogation.
Yeah.
And Shane, bless him, didn't want it faked and didn't want to fake the slaps. Slaps are really hard to fake.
Yeah.
Punches are a lot easier to fake. To get a slap and a slap reaction is really difficult to do. So Shane volunteered to get slapped.
Just hit me.
Slapped for real. And so when he's crying for real. And he blew up with it. But he wouldn't stop. Like, he wouldn't stop until he had a take that he liked.
Oh, no.
And it was hard. It was really hard. But what it showed was the impact of how far that lie had gone in the movie.
Yeah.
And it was kind of important with Jason being so big and so physical. It was important that the scene was real.
Yeah.
And we thought if it was just a normal fight scene, it wouldn't have worked.
Is he, when you work with the guy in real life, I mean, he comes off in this movie, and I guess as Kyle and everything is Conan, a pretty aggressive guy. He strikes me as kind of an aggressive guy. Is he that way actually, or is he sort of just really sweet?
He's a beautiful man. Like, the first thing he does is he's a family first type of person.
Yeah.
So when he arrived in Alaska, I knew, like the rest of us, that he was excited to be there for the first time.
Right.
So the first night, I mean, there's a lot of drinking beer and there's a lot of arm wrestles and and sort of real Viking, beautiful gypsy stuff. But he's an absolute gentleman.
Yeah.
And an absolute professional.
Yeah.
And incredibly well prepared, and takes a lot of pride in his props and his performance. And so it's not that a lot of it's a facade, it's just that you have a real amazing professional behind the other stuff, which is also real, because you can go to his house and throw tomahawks.
I've seen this video of him online throwing fucking tomahawks. That's a real thing.
It's a real thing, and it's a real thing in his house. But it's just all a part of this beautiful big guy, and you can't help but just want to hang out and drink beer with him.
He sounds like
because he's just a really nice guy as well.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. So one thing I noticed your after party, your premiere, everything. I'd never met I'd never met you before. I'd never met anybody in your crew before. Maybe the most fun after party I've been to, and I go to a lot of the ones that are like the big, La La Land or these big premieres where they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on the whole thing. And there's a lot of you see celebrities everywhere, but I just by the end of the night at this bar with you guys, I felt like I was hanging out with a big group of people I knew already.
Great.
Everybody, your whole cast was also friendly. Like Josh Hellman, who is great and has been in movies that I really love. I had this long conversation with Josh about some of his favorite movies, and he's gonna come in and do an interview. Like, I just couldn't believe it. So that's why we booked this interview, because I was like, there's just something, you created something special with this community. It was very clear to me that there was. Is that that sort of family vibe? Is that what it's like on set?
It means a lot to me that you would say that, because that's our number one thing. When we don't have a lot of money to pay people, we try to create a family environment. And Josh worked with in Australia a couple of years ago, and has just actually directed a film that was playing at Slam Dance last week, and the friendship groups that we forge. And with this particular group, you got Drew Roy, right? Who, when we got him in the lead, we were like, fantastic, because he's the perfect opposite Shane Coffey.
Yeah, right.
Then we have Haley Webb, who, obviously, there's a twist there we don't want to give away, but the three of those guys all just seem like they're from the same, cut from the same cloth.
Agreed.
And they felt like they could be believable in Alaska.
Yeah.
Those three. And Drew would go out every day and climb and ice climb, and Shane would be out exploring. But on the weekends we would have these dailies or rushes screenings for anybody that wanted to come. We'd take the local pub. This is Tony's pub, called Tony's in Seward, downtown Seward, when you go there, and we would screen the footage for the week, but in a non-traditional way. We'd put it to music and just take the best bits, so that the crew could come in and with their families and friends, the locals come in, the actors come in, and they see that although we didn't have any money, we were really trying to get the best. And it creates this family atmosphere. And if you do that after 6 or 7 films of everybody being welcome, family, friends, girlfriends, wives, children, husbands, if they're all welcome, then when they come and visit set, they don't feel like they're kind of sitting in the corner. And they can have an actual conversation with you at the bar. So when we have our catch-ups, it's often just talking about, wow, what a time that was in Alaska. Because when do you get to go to Alaska for 3 months?
That's crazy.
Right? And so someone like Josh, we did that with Josh Hellman, who's since done X-Men and Mad Max.
Don't forget about getting kicked in the nuts by Tom Cruise.
It's
a big deal.
Right,
Jack Reacher.
Right, Jack Reacher, right.
Means
big
a lot
scene,
to me.
it's a great scene. So, somebody like him, we spent, as well as Anna Hutchinson, who's in Sugar Mountain, we got to spend 3 months in Torquay on Bells Beach in Australia. And same vibe there. Just a family atmosphere. So I love that you thought it was family friendly, and a lot has to do with alcohol, and that might be my issue, or an Australian thing. But we do like to catch up, and we do like the family vibe.
There's a reason I fit in, my friend. That's funny. Bells Beach. Do you know? Here's a piece of trivia for you. You must. I'm sure you know. You know where I'm going already. What classic action film? Yeah, it's my favorite film of all time. It's my single favorite
shot
movie.
in Oregon?
Yeah, it is. It's shot in Oregon.
Because there's no pine trees on Bells Beach. I remember that. Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
That's the best movie ever.
That's a great movie. The remake wasn't what I was expecting.
True story.
But they were trying something different.
I do an action movie show every week. Point Break is my all-time favorite movie, and I didn't see the remake. I was so turned off by it. I kept hearing the worst things. It's like I can't put myself through it.
I heard some people enjoyed it if they didn't think about the original.
Right. I heard the stunts were like unbelievable. That's what I kept hearing, is the stunts are worth watching on their own, but that the movie...
A good buddy of mine worked on it in Venezuela, I think. And he said that the same thing.
Well, yeah, it's tough because, I always say this, but it's like, if you're going to take one of those classics, like a movie like that, and Point Break's not a classic in a way that, say, like, I don't know, like an Oscar-winning movie maybe would be a classic, or like Raiders of the Lost Ark or something like that, but it's a classic in its genre. People love that movie. It's a cult classic for sure. But at the time when they made that movie, Swayze was the king of the world. 1991, Swayze had been on the cover of People magazine as the sexiest man alive the year before. I mean, Ghost is the year before. Like, he's the biggest star, and Keanu's like an up-and-comer. So if you remake the movie, you can't put there. I mean, who's the guy from Hands of Stone? Can't think of what his name is.
I can't either, but I know what you mean. But I guess they went the exact opposite. If we can't do the same, the sad thing is, I feel like the same thing might have worked, because
fully, except they did that and it was called The Fast and the Furious, and it did work.
Right.
That was great.
Right.
That's 100% what it is.
Right.
So anyway, going back just a little bit, Sugar Mountain's the big new release, and Lookalike, which I actually really did enjoy. I'm dead serious. I texted you this, that I totally enjoyed the movie. I thought it was entertaining. I thought Justin Long was a believable cokehead. I liked seeing Jerry O'Connell in the role he was in.
Jerry is a fantastic actor. I don't want to say he's underrated as an actor, because he's a fantastic actor and people love him. Everybody loves Jerry. And he's one of the nicest, best people you ever want to work with.
Yeah.
And having him as a lead and a leading male in this film, in this type of genre, I thought he was unbelievably good.
Yeah.
I want to see him do and in more of that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, but to work with Luis Guzman.
Yeah, that has been exciting for you.
And these type of people that were very, the entire cast, Gillian Jacobs, Justin, John Corbett, Gina Gershon.
Yeah, Gina's great.
It was a dream. And Michelle, my wife, wrote this film.
Yeah.
And we're in New Orleans. And we're in New Orleans for 4 months making this film for $1 million.
Yeah.
With these type of actors.
It's cool.
And we were way above our heads.
Yeah.
In what we were trying to achieve. But it's a movie that I'm incredibly proud of for what we had and what the final product.
The actress that played Mila, I was in love. She's so gorgeous.
Yeah. So Scotty Thompson is a good friend of mine, and she's the lead in a new film that I just made in Montana called Broken Ghost. Cool. And she's fantastic.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
So you go back to the beginning, before you're making, let's call them big budget. We're getting there with bigger budgets. $1 million is still $1 million. I mean,
it's true. It's a lot of money. It will never not feel like a lot of money to me.
You can make a movie for a lot less than $1 million. Look a lot worse than your movies. So,
of course.
So you win awards for your short way back when, Yellow Brick Dreams. That's what it's called, 2003. And from there, the script you'd been working on for a long time, Summer Coda. You'd worked on that for 6 years. Is that right? Finally gets made. So here's the thing I find interesting, and tell me what you think about this. I was looking at the reviews on all the movies you've made, Summer Coda through now, and I would say mixed reviews is the strongest way to describe your movies. Summer Coda has the best reviews, but it's the smallest budget. Am I right in saying that? And it seems to be the least thrillery. All the rest of them, I mean, I guess Blinder's not really a thriller, but Summer Coda, from what I could gather, and I didn't unfortunately get a chance to watch it, seems like a story of a girl who's on a journey trying to get some clarity about her life and where she comes from. It's a drama. That's exactly the kind of movie I was saying that I don't feel like the new ones when I say they're not indies.
Sure.
Summer Coda feels like my idea of an indie to me.
Sure. So it's a coming of age story loosely based on how my parents met, but it's very, very simple.
Yeah.
But I'm drawn to coming of age films, and the film we just made in Montana, Broken Ghost, is a coming of age film. And the hard thing with mixed genre is you get a lot of criticism because you're not quite one thing and you're not quite another thing.
Right.
So the lookalike, to me, the stuff I'm drawn to is the drama, the dialogue, the relationships. Sugar Mountain, same thing. It's these kids in this situation. What are you going to do?
Right.
It's not that it's a thriller and it needs to tick a certain amount of boxes. Same with the Western that I'm working on at the moment. So when you make a genre film that's not quite a thriller, not quite enough kills or action, or not quite enough action or horror, or a horror film that's a smart little think piece, but it's not a horror film.
Right.
These are the films that I've been making. And it's because, unfortunately, or fortunately, I love them.
Yeah.
And it's the script. It's the scripts that speak to me. So I'm not a huge fan. It's the wrong thing to say. Flat out horror gore films are not my favorite films.
Okay.
Right.
Me neither. Yeah.
But I love thinking horror / psychological thriller.
Cabin in the Woods you love.
Right. So, and I like these caper films, thrillers, but I don't want them to be devoid of the human element.
Fun.
And I'm not tied up on how many people get killed or how much action we have.
Yeah.
So we find ourselves falling into mixed genre in every single film. Sugar Mountain's the same.
Yeah.
Like, it's a drama about these kids and what they have to do to whether it's bearing a body or
Yeah.
a small amount of debt. They don't have $1 million in debt. They're like, they owe 15 grand. But it wasn't, that was what was important to me. So maybe to answer your question, Summer Coda was the cleanest genre.
Sure.
Straight coming of age was what you thought it would be. Looked beautiful.
Yeah.
Like I hope all our films look. But didn't try to be too much. Maybe when you do mixed genres with no money,
Yeah.
in thriller, in horror, maybe more is expected, or maybe you can't win both ways.
Maybe, but people are watching your movies. I mean, that's the bottom line here. And when I say the thing about mixed reviews, the thing I find so interesting about it is, like, 2010 is not very long ago. You worked on that movie for 6 years, and all these years later, so Sugar Mountain comes out. The thing you were talking about mixed genres, and you like to make these movies, but you don't want to be void of something. What I was gonna say is, like, Sugar Mountain, it feels totally like a thriller. It's a drama. It's exciting, but it has a little bit of that, like, campy CW teen sex element to it.
Right.
That fun.
Right.
That's something that makes it. You don't take it as seriously as you could. But that's also something that I feel like, as, like, director, you could rip that stuff out if you wanted. It's not hard to get rid of that stuff. It's a few changes to a script.
No.
So I think it's there intentionally, it feels like.
It is, and I'm never the person that thinks indie, it's got to be gritty, it's got to look like shit, it's got to
Right.
be handheld.
Right.
It's just not my aesthetic.
Yeah.
So I never think that, and that also with the cameras that we've been so lucky to be a part of, the digital cameras that have come along in the last 10 years. I think we were like the second or third feature film in Australia to shoot on the Red. And when you have the technology at your hands, and you can make the pictures look beautiful, and you have a beautiful cinematographer, the beautiful gaffer, and a beautiful lighting team, beautiful production designers in a beautiful location, it's hard sometimes to deliver the indie film that looks like shit,
Yeah.
or is more believable because it's edgy.
You, like, put some dirt on that camera.
When all you want is to put your actors in this amazing position to perform in beautiful situations.
Yeah.
But I don't like handheld. Just for me, I love some great films that are shot handheld, but it's not something that I do.
Sure.
And so sometimes I feel like the films look, but the fun of the kids in the film is what drew me to the script. So I don't deliberately want to make it more hardcore, or more incestuous, or more dark.
Yeah.
Because.
So I totally get that, and I mean, I'm somebody who loves a lot of things in a lot of genres. I mean, truth be told, later tonight I'll be on the panel for the CW the 100 after show, and tomorrow I'm doing the Riverdale after show. Right. So I'm on board with some of that, fun stuff. I get it. That stuff appeals to me. The OC was like my favorite show 10 years ago.
Great show.
Show was fucking great. So talking about then all of the mixed genres, and if Summer Coda was the cleanest, and here we are with Broken Ghost, you're working on Salted Earth, which is this new Western you're building a set for.
Yes.
That I do want to ask about in a minute here. Give me some movies that were your biggest pieces of inspiration, not just for this movie, but just as a filmmaker.
Right.
Like 5 movies that just stand out to you.
Right. So E.T. and the first Batman really stand out in my childhood.
89 Batman? Tim Burton?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so that Batman was my first kind of... So I guess it's 89, so I was only 9 years old.
Yeah.
So I went to the cinema and saw that film a lot at the movies. So that really spoke to me. And E.T. as well. And then they were the first 2. So you've got that fantasy and beautiful filmmaking, amazing films, and I can rewatch those films any day of the week.
Batman, I adore that movie.
And then you got the films that you have when I was going and starting to make films. And that's why PTA was a huge influence on me, because Boogie Nights was a film that what year was that? 95 or
98?
98, right. So I had just turned 18 and it's an R-rated movie. So I remember seeing the cinema. I would see it at the cinema religiously, and I worked at the movies, and I worked in projection, I worked at the cinema since I was 15. So when I watched Boogie Nights, I was like, oh wow, because Goodfellas is like one of your favorite films,
right? And
you're like, oh man, you can grow up in the valley and you can have a Goodfellas experience, but you can have it in your suburban lifestyle, but it can be even more impactful because you can relate to it. And so Boogie Nights for me was something that gave me confidence, also something that was still very funny, as tragic as it is. It could do drama, tragedy, and comedy, and just hilarious. Like John C. Reilly in that film,
unbelievable,
and just unbelievable. And so you could get all this comedy and watch some of the most brilliant actors in the world in this film as an ensemble piece, and go, oh wow.
The first hour of Boogie Nights is technically perfect. It's flawless. It's actually flawless until he wins the awards. I mean, the rest of the movie's still amazing.
Right.
The whole movie's perfect.
But it's so much fun, and like you can just watch it for half an hour depending on your mood. And so that was a real eye opener for me. And then I adored Magnolia, and then by that time I was making films, and then Punch Drunk Love was another film. And so it was his earlier films, and also Hard Eight's Sydney.
Yeah.
And so they were the films, and then after that I was making my own films. But those films for me were like, oh, I want to go see what he's doing, because these actors seemed real to me, and they're giving amazing performances, but yet it's a heightened reality, but still really grounded. Cinematography amazing, and anamorphic lenses, and so you're getting your vibe and your tracking, and you're getting all your big movie feels. But are you watching a bit of Robert Altman? Are you watching Coppola? Are you watching Scorsese? Great.
Yeah.
And it was inspirational.
Yeah, those two movies to me, I mean, they're two of my 10 favorite movies ever. Sometimes I would just go as far as to say that, like, they're two of my 5 favorite. It's really difficult for me with those two movies, because I can almost think of no movies that I enjoy more than them.
Great.
And I also feel like in some ways they're not the same movie, but they feel like part of the same piece to me. Like, I can separate them entirely, and I've probably seen both movies 25 times each. But I could talk about them all day, because every single character, every piece of voiceover, every scene, and I mean, some of the scenes, like, how did Philip Seymour Hoffman be, like, he's such a star in those movies, and his parts are so small. He's barely even in Boogie Nights. He has like 12 minutes.
It's that scene in the car, and the scene holding the boom, and the same with William H. Macy. I mean,
God.
Between those two films, you have everything. I mean, WizKid Donnie Smith.
Yeah, it's so good.
But as the first AD in Boogie Nights, when they're talking about when they're having the conversation about the photography of the film.
Yeah, she's gotta get him ass in her cock.
Yeah, exactly. And the screenplay for those films phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so they were influences, and I don't know if they just hit me at the perfect time, but they were films that I would just watch on repeat.
Do you have a favorite character or scene from the two movies combined total? Do you have like a single favorite character or a single favorite scene?
I love Tom Cruise in Magnolia.
It's like one of the great. He's my favorite actor of all time, and it's that. Great. It's a top 3. I don't know if it's his best performance ever, but it's so good. He's so good.
Do you know, I think it's probably watching John C. Reilly and Mark Wahlberg give their interviews for Julianne Moore's documentary.
Yeah.
When
Wahlberg's so nervous.
Wahlberg's like, he lets me block my own sex scenes, and then they cut, and then he finds out that he's not allowed to block his own sex scenes. But John C. Reilly just looks like he's having so much fun. And then, because if we could stop violence by stopping violence in films, bang, no more violence.
Yeah.
I've got other things. I'm a magician.
You can't fuck forever.
You can't fuck forever. Yeah, you cut to his magician scene at the end of the movie. Like, I haven't seen Boogie Nights for probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But I could sit down and watch it right now.
Yeah, the whole thing.
That's how good it is. And Magnolia's the same. Philip Baker Hall.
Oh, God,
in both.
Yeah.
In both.
Well, you got to work with Melora Walters in Sugar Mountain.
Yes.
Another same situation is with Carrie, except even worse, because with Carrie I was like, this is a movie that means everything to everyone. Yeah. With Melora, I was like, my energy was so high, and I felt like she was like, how do you even recognize me? Like, I don't even, and I was like, there's that scene with you and John C. Reilly, and he looks at you and he's like, I lost my gun today, and you say that line, she's like,
at the restaurant where they look at each other.
Might be my favorite scene in that whole movie, honestly.
Yeah, and they kiss, and it moves in on their kiss. Yeah, she is adorable, and she's a phenomenal talent, and she's just made and directed her first feature film.
Oh, cool.
Called Jaguar Tiger Lily, or Tiger Lily Jaguar. And she is a fantastic, generous person, actress, director. And when she was put on a list to me as people that we could cast, I was like, what?
Right.
And then just talking with her, because she lives here, just in the hills, and because Magnolia is such a big deal for her. But of course, she's amazing with Don Cheadle in Boogie Nights.
Yeah, she's fantastic as Jessie.
And Jessie is just a fantastic character. But you meet with her, and you can be a fan around her, and I love that because I'm always embarrassed of how much of a fan I am.
Really?
Of these guys. But then it's lovely when you meet the people that let you be a fan.
That's why you gotta do what I do for a living.
And Jerry Connell's the same. Louis Guzman's the same.
Yeah.
John Corbett's the same.
Yeah.
Like being able to talk to people that don't mind you saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
when I was in Australia, you came out for," or Northern Exposure along with Cheers was the one show my dad used to let me stay up late to watch.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to have those conversations with people and not make it mean that you're not going to be a good director.
Right.
I think it's just a good sign of respect. And Melora is one of those people, and that Magnolia performance will go down
Yeah.
for years to come.
The scene, I mean, I just love when she's looking at him and she's so freaked out. She's like, you just got your shit together and you're so well kept. And he looks at her and he's just like, I lost my gun today.
I will tell you that.
I lost my gun and I'm embarrassed. I feel like a fool.
I'm a laughing stock.
I'm a laughing stock.
Yeah.
And it makes you want to cry that moment.
And then they kiss.
It's just the fucking best. Yeah. Anyway, so getting back to what we were just talking about before we just tangented. We could just keep talking about that if you want.
We can.
You let me know. You're building a western town for this movie Salted Earth. And it's like a real thing. There's a set being built right now for you to go make.
Yes, a good friend of mine, a writer called Lee Zachariah, has written what I think is quite a phenomenal Western screenplay, and it's been a dream for a long time to make a Western.
Yeah.
And so we just made this other film in Montana, this beautiful coming-of-age film called Broken Ghost. And so being in that scenery, and the film is set in Montana for 6 months last year, really got us going. And what we tend to do is when we find a script, the team that we work with, when we find a script that we love, we tend to just go, right, we're making it.
Yeah.
And then things from that positive energy with the team that we have, it happens. Like, it just happens. Like, you have to just say you're going to do it when you don't have studio backing or what is known as A-list talent attached, brings money. You have to just decide that you're going to do it. Otherwise, you're like the 99% of people that have a script,
right,
or have an idea for a film.
Sure.
You actually just have to set a date and make it. And so we did that for Broken Ghost. And within 3 months of reading the script, we were on set shooting the film, just because it really spoke to us, and we were like, we're going to do it. Now, this Western's a lot bigger, but it's the same thing. It's like it's a Western that speaks to us. Before I moved over here, Deadwood was a big show for me.
Yeah.
My wife used to hate it. She'd come home and I would have that opening title sequence, the horse going through town, just blasting. And I love that show.
Yeah, Deadwood's great.
So much, and it's more than 10 years ago now. I loved it so much.
It's gone too soon.
I started Bring Season 4 Facebook page, like almost as a joke. Yeah. But then all these extras and actors that had been on Deadwood started posting their photos of behind the scenes Deadwood. Yeah. So it's still on Facebook. Right.
I listened to Ian McShane on the Chris Hardwick podcast like a month ago maybe. He's doing a new show called American Gods on Starz, and the other star on the show is my buddy Ricky. And I was excited I just wanted to hear if he dropped Ricky's name. I figured he would, but I was going to get me really excited. So he talked a lot about that, the season 4 of Deadwood, and the number of people that want that show back, and how bummed they all were. They were just going to start to hit their stride.
I think these days, it was a lot of money at the time, but these days it's nothing compared to Game of Thrones. And I think these days, if that show was on, it would keep going forever. Because it wasn't that much money in today's market.
You could also bring it back. I mean, it's like a
Netflix. But at the time, it was just so... The dialogue, the writers of that show, it's brilliant. So anyway, we took something like that, and then we took a Western that is lesser known, The Proposition, an Australian film that Nick Cave wrote. And then then we have the classics of Open Range and Unforgiven and these types of films. And there's something about this script that's kind of somewhere in the middle. It's got the art of a Jesse James or a Proposition.
Yeah.
But it's still rooted in traditional Western feel. And so we read it and just went, oh, have to make this film. And so, but a little bit different to all the other under $1 million films we made. It's a Western, so it's the budget has to be a lot bigger just because of horses and period costume and action and doubles and all that sort of stuff. And so we're like, well, let's try to set the same goals.
Yeah.
And it turns out lots of people want to make Westerns. And they're not necessarily the most commercial film to make, because overseas they do a lot better in the US than they do overseas.
Yeah.
Not as a rule, but generally speaking. So a lot of people want to make a Western. A lot of people have a passion to make a Western.
Right.
So I think that really helped us, because when you say, oh, I'm going to make a Western yet, people are like,
yeah,
let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's helped us. And so we'll shoot that before the summer.
You guys are shooting that in just a few months.
Mm.
Wow. And it's in Vancouver you're building the set? Is that what it is?
No. So the locations are up in there at the moment, but we'd love to build it in Montana. But there's a bunch of different locations to do with the story.
Got it.
It changes a lot of geographically. But we just applied the same thing, and it worked, because people want to make Westerns. And it's not me, it's the script and the team. And so people read the script, and if they get excited about the script, you usually know. If you send it around to the people that you trust, and it gets excitement, you know you're on a good thing. If you don't get that, it's usually a good time to put it away. So we've had a good experience with this one.
So, but this is you haven't written on a film that you've made in a few years. The last one you did was Blinder. So was that a conscious decision? You were like, I kind of want to start making other people's movies?
No, I really wanted to be a writer-director when I was starting out. But when you physically need to work for a living, like the majority of people, there was something that changed when you just started appreciating writers for being writers, and being so much better than I was. I am. And so it was just a real pressure off to just start thinking, just find the best writer for the story that you want to tell, and you can be involved. And when I have some dialogue that I want to be, or a story that really speaks to me, I'm writing it, I'm doing that now. But more than anything, it sets you free. It's just the most important part of it is the script, because you can't get anyone excited or get any actor of any note involved if you don't have the best script. So it's kind of set me free to go just concentrate on the directing.
Are you a fan of Tombstone? Do you like Tombstone?
Oh yeah. Huge fan when I was a kid.
Tombstone's like the ultimate.
I went to the set. The sets they shot in Arizona. Arizona's kind of dried up for film work because there's no tax incentive. But the original Tombstone set is, you can walk it. In Tucson. Both within like an hour of Tucson, so you can basically walk the whole movie. That's
so cool. I did 15 minutes with Michael Biehn over the summer at Comic-Con. I got to hang out with him a little bit and talk about The Rock and Aliens and all these movies. And the cameras turned off, and we had just started talking about Johnny Ringo, and we talked for probably 10 more minutes just about that movie making experience, because that was a movie. The production of that movie was pretty plagued. You know the story.
100%.
Everybody kind of ran out on the movie, and I think the director pass away during the film? Is that what it was? Something like that? There's something crazy like that where everybody kind of had to come together. Kurt Russell kind of had to direct almost in some ways. The movie's almost 45 minutes longer, the original cut, so it's like a crazy epic. But I think it's like the ultimate sort of guilty pleasure for people, because I think people don't regard that as a great movie. They regard it as kind of a campy movie. It's like sort of like the Western Point Break in some ways.
It's a good point, but it's a classic in the sense of everybody knows it. And Val Kilmer in that film is amazing, exceptional.
Every scene,
and then you're seeing a lot of these characters that you later see in Deadwood. And that was great. Like is it Powers Booth, or you get to see a lot of these actors, but also you get to see John Corbett's in Tombstone. And what's his name?
Billy Bob,
but also
Bill Paxton.
Thomas Hayden Church.
Oh yeah, he's got a small part.
Yeah. So you watch Tombstone, and you'd be it's a nice way. Like when I recently rewatched it, because I'm watching westerns every day at the moment. I rewatched it and went, had no idea all these guys were in it.
He's like,
and so I was texting, just catching up with people. Going, I didn't know you were in Tombstone. It's like everyone's in Tombstone.
He's like, what's he say? He's like, hey, the drunk piano player. He's so drunk, you probably see it too. And he's like, I got one gun for the both of you, or something like that. Yeah, he's got some line like that.
That's right.
It's great. I didn't see that movie. What the hell is it called? The Kurt Russell one from last year, Bone Tomahawk.
Yes,
I heard it was good though.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I think it was announced today that director is making a film with Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn.
Oh,
it's really interesting because it's got a lot of craft, and it pushes the boundaries.
It's a cannibalism movie, isn't it?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, but it's great to see something different.
Yeah, and
it's. I remember when the script was going around, like it was a big deal, and so people should see it. It's a hard watch, but it's really interesting, like, and different.
Right. Yeah, movies. Those movies that are like that have that. I mean, cannibalism is its own thing, but I mean, movies like that, they tend to not be movies you want to watch a second time for a lot of people. The Road is like that. You remember that movie?
Wow, The Road's amazing.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
The Road's phenomenal, but it's a pretty depressing movie. Never particularly wanted to go back and watch it a second time.
Right.
Guy Pearce is such a weird small role in that movie. You almost don't even know it's him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Anyway, that's so exciting, man. I cannot wait to see your vision of the Western.
Oh, Western, I'm very, very excited to do.
Yeah. Any casting ideas on that yet? You can reveal or nothing?
I can't reveal yet, but we will be soon.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think that's going to wrap us up here. We're going on an hour, and unless you want to just fit in 10 more minutes of P.T. Anderson
next
talk.
time we bring beer and we can just watch Boogie Nights and we can do our own commentary.
That's what we'll do. I'm going to hold you to that.
We'll have two viewers, but it'll be you and me.
I'm going to show up on set in Montana with a six-pack. It's like, hey, Richie, can I steal you for a couple hours?
Let's watch 3 hours. We'll need 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, of course.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was good talking. Guys, thanks for watching. And if you want to follow along with either of us and see what you're up to, where can the folks find you on Twitter?
Twitter is _Richie_Gray.
Not Ricky Hollywood.
Used to be Ricky Hollywood, but I was told it was too egotistical.
Yeah,
I should have stuck with it.
Just like you should start a Facebook group for Bring Back Ricky Hollywood.
I've got my Deadwood Season 4 Facebook page. That's embarrassing enough.
Yeah, guys, if you want to follow along with me, it's Ben Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram. Shout us out your thoughts and watch Sugar Mountain. It was totally entertaining. It's great. You should watch the movie. So thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.